welcome to CCS Youth Rec. Today we are going on another adventure to Bosumarne Falls, something like that. Don't quote me on that. And we're going to build a fire, make some hot chocolate, and show you how to set up a tarp and make a fire. So the trail isn't super long. It's about 15-minute light hike in, so you'll get some pretty views without having to work too hard or make a sweat. So that's why we can carry some logs with us. Unless you want to go for a workout, then you can just do it just for the fun of it. But look at how pretty it is. We got some nice moody weather here, perfect for a fire, and so it's great for getting outside in the winter time when it's not too cold yet. Okay, now we're coming into this little clearing right here where you'll see a little teepee, which is awesome, and that will mark your trail of where to continue to go to the waterfall. So we'll just continue on this trail up more, or you can stop at the teepee first because it's also really awesome, especially if it's raining.
So you get your free firewood.
Yeah, no, don't do that. And then continue on this trail up, and then there's like a little cross section here where you're gonna take a right. The left one has part of the waterfall, but it's not that exciting. So the big one is if you continue through this trail here.
Also not super well marked, but it has some markers like this little pink flagging tape, so you can follow it up pretty well.
And just follow along this trail here. So we're continuing on that right trail, and it's gonna start to get a little steeper. You're gonna pass through this little log cutout here and just continue to follow this trail. It'll go up a bit, and then we'll show you where to turn off next.
Finding a really durable surface that is free of vegetation that could catch fire. You pick the rock because rocks can't catch fire. It's a really nice spot to dispose of the fire after. You want to let it burn out, and you can dispose of the ashes once you douse water on them or make sure that they're not hot anymore. So we're going to start building our fire here in a second. So there are a few different components to making a fire. One, you need dry wood, preferably. You can build fires out of wet wood, but it's very difficult. Second, you need kindling, tinder, and main logs or main wood. And kindling is your smallest, finest, driest pieces. That's to get the fire started and that initial flame. Tinder is stuff like this, small, medium-sized piece of wood. That's tinder. So that's actually going to be a bigger fuel. And then you move to bigger stuff, and that's going to be your main base for the fire. So we're going to get chopping here, chopped up some kindling and some tinder, and I'll show you some ways to do that. So to build kindling, one of the best ways, you can sometimes find a really dry straw, or you can shave nice dry pieces of wood by grabbing the corner. Of course, you gotta be very careful. You don't hurt yourself. Notice how my hands are nice far away. See, and you're making little pieces like this, little dry curly flakes, and that'll really get going. Another good tip is to use a piece of wood, especially if you have rocks around, because if you hit rocks with the tip of your axe, you can damage the end, and then it becomes dull. So we're just gonna peel some pieces of tinder, kindling. So once we got our little pile of kindling, you can start working on the bigger stuff. Stuff like this. This is our tinder. So they're small, 1 inch by 1 inch kind of pieces. They start to get bigger that we can build up the fire for. We'll chop some of that. Be very careful when using an axe. Adult supervision if you're young is Alright guys, so we also brought newspaper. Newspaper works really good as a fire starter. You can use fire starters that you can buy at different sporting goods stores. They work good. What you want to do is you want to crumple it to a nice light ball. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put our newspaper, put a couple pieces down. It's a little wet here, but that's okay. Put a couple pieces down, and then we'll add the kindling on top, and we'll get her going. Okay, so there's different kinds of methods to building a fire. There's cabin, teepee, multiple. I'm gonna choose teepee just because it's easier with like drier, smaller wood. I'm just adding the kindling on top there, and then I'm just adding pieces in a teepee form. And this is just the tinder, smaller pieces all along. You can build it up all the way around the newspaper. Keep it nice and neat. And what that does is the flame will rise and naturally hit the center of the teepee that we're making. So after, I prefer using a lighter. Not always reliable, especially if they get wet. A good lighter is good. Matches work, but they also, unless they're waterproof matches, aren't super effective, and once you run out, you run out. Lighter doesn't run out, so prefer a lighter, but bring both. It's always good. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by lighting the newspaper here. So we got a little bit of wind here. That's actually really helpful in providing oxygen. When it's dead calm, it's actually harder to start a fire than when it's a little bit windy. So as you can see, the newspaper is really igniting. It's lighting that small kindling, and then it's actually lighting the tinder as well. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we're adding the wood, and the bigger the pieces, the hotter the fire needs to be to really get lighting. So we're getting that. You can hear it crackling. It's going pretty good, but you got to be careful. At this stage, it can go out still. So we'll watch it, monitor it. And if it starts to go out a bit, we'll give it more oxygen by blowing on the fire. So once we build up the fire to a good kind of base, like we see here, with some tinder, little 1 inch by 1 inch pieces, you can start adding bigger ones. I like to go about 2 by 2, so a bit bigger. And you can start adding those onto the fire, place them gently, and that'll let the fire burn longer.
Okay, now find your nearest waterfall and get some water out of it, because why not use nature's resources
So I'm using this log here as a prop to put it in. You can do a traditional teepee hang method, which you have a piece of wire and you hang the pot over so you can adjust it. That works really well too, but we're just gonna place the pot in the fire, start to warm it up. Ideally you want the fire to start to die down and get these nice red embers. That's perfect for cooking. Right now it's not super flamey, so it's actually getting pretty good for cooking. So we're just warming up a bit of water to start melting the chocolate. We're doing the traditional way. We're actually adding and melting some chocolate. We got a mix of dark and light milk chocolate, and then we'll add the chocolate powder and the milk and stuff as well. So we got the water to a rolling boil. We're just gonna add a little bit of water, a little bit of chocolate. Look at that, just melt. Awesome. I'm gonna actually take it off the fire a little bit, just because it's getting really hot. So we're just gonna melt that in there, get some of that rich chocolate. Look at that melt. It's beautiful. We melted some chocolate bars in there, some dark chocolate, milk chocolate mixed together with a little water. Get that really chocolatey, some natural hot chocolate there. And we're just reducing that down into a liquid, and then we'll add some milk and maybe some powder, chocolate powder as well. So we're just reducing that melted chocolate into a nice hot chocolate mix here. So we brought some milk along that we're going to add. We'll add probably about half milk, half chocolate. We'll try that out. Oh yeah, that looks good. Look at that.
Yeah.
Chocolatey goodness. So now that we added cold milk, we're going to want to add some heat, get that up to a good temperature again. And we'll top it with some candy canes. And okay, once it's got nice and warm, we're just going to pour it in our cups. Nice and slowly. So we just got these candy canes. I'm just crushing them inside the package so we can add them to our hot chocolate.
And this is the finished product.
Delicious. Once you're done with your fire, try and let it burn down, and what you can do is you can put the coals in together so it burns faster and more efficiently. Once you get down to as little ash as you can possibly go, then you can spread it out when you're done with your fire. Spread it out a bit and then apply some water or sand, preferably water. If we're by a waterfall, then why not? And you're going to douse that fire in all the hot spots you can see, all the way around it. Douse that out, get all the hot spots, and don't be scared. Basically, you want to leave this fire almost cold to the touch. So it shouldn't be, you should be able to touch this fire by the end of it. I'm going to get some more water, but that's what we want to do. So we're just going to make sure we got all the spots. You can use the stick, spread the ashes, get the surfaces that are underneath. And then if you've chosen a new spot and not a spot that already has an existing fire, to get rid of the ashes, mine's on the rocks, you can either bury it or just dispose of it in a nice area once the ashes are gone.